Hey, what's up you guys? This is Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Quick Draw we figure out if you really can have the best of both worlds, with the Burston Prime. As with all special edition weapons, you're gonna see some extra numbers in the stat box. The red will be the Burston Prime, while the gray will be the original Burston. So I figured that since we're on the Prime train, I would get to leveling my Burston Prime. Now, to be honest with you, I've never been a big fan of burst fire weapons because I feel like they're this strange in-between of semi-auto and fully automatic that I can't quite wrap my head around. They're arguably ammo inefficient, but also somehow very ammo efficient. They can do a lot of damage per bullet if you're a good shot, but if you're a shit shot, then your damage goes out the window. It's like being bisexual, but we'll get to that later. You can pick up its components in the Void in derelict survival missions. More specifically, you can find the stock in Tower 1, the receiver in Tower 2, and the barrel and blueprint in the Oregon derelict. And, as we know, you can currently pick up its parts by trading via the dojos. So the Burston's damage type is fairly balanced with a slight focus on slashing. Overall though, you've got a fairly decent chunk of each type of damage, making this feasible for almost any of the factions. Now, as for the mechanics, I must say that it definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So the first thing that you have to keep in mind is the fact that the quick bursts of shots is a set fire rate of 25 rounds per second and is unmoddable. However, the timing between each burst is moddable. Now, 25 rounds per second is super fast, which means that you can whittle down big targets quite quickly, as well as pop the head cans of Corpus troops and score some lethal headshots all in a single burst, especially since the Burston Prime sports a respectable accuracy and low recoil. However, on the other end of the spectrum, 25 rounds per second is so quick that you may end up wasting ammo on lesser unclustered targets. Now, this is where I get slightly rambly. Burst firing is also a playstyle that is suggested to be used on fully automatic weapons in order to conserve ammo, which basically means that you tap your trigger in order to fire shots only as needed. But in this case, since you fire each burst manually, you're going to be forced to fire 3 rounds regardless of whether you need the extra 2 or not. In the long run, 2 bullets doesn't sound so bad. But what happens when you completely miss your target, or are so trigger happy that you don't realize your target is dead? Don't lie, it's happened to all of us. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are many other rifles that have such a fast fire rate that even holding onto that trigger for an extra second means wasting 5 or more rounds. So, I don't know. Now, speaking of things that make my head hurt, let's get to the gay factor. Okay, so this whole next bit may be a tad controversial, and I may offend some people, so I apologize in advance. Not that I've ever really apologized for the other shit I put on here, but whatever. So, while contemplating the hybrid firing style of the Burston Prime, it got me thinking of the phrase, best of both worlds. But what they don't mention is that when you blend two things together, you also tend to get the shit of both worlds. Now, see, from my personal experience, which may vary greatly from your own, bisexual men can come off a bit more masculine. They tend to be a little more laid back and less high maintenance. But on the other end of the spectrum, they also enjoy fucking girls, which is weird. Literally, you're in competition with everyone now. Not just David Beckham, but you also gotta worry about fucking Posh Spice too. And straight men, don't think that you get the winning stick on this one, because if the girl you're interested in is actually bisexual, think of how shit you look as compared to Victoria's Secret's Candice Swanepool. Yeah, Google that shit and wipe the Dorito crumbs off your shirt, buddy, because you're gonna need to hit the gym. Because, let's face it, if you can't compete with that, you're just one big black battery-operated purchase away from being completely irrelevant. Now that we all feel a little shittier about ourselves, let's get back to the quick draw. So, while the ammo issue hurts my head a bit, the Burston Prime's base damage definitely makes me feel quite sexy. Then top that off with elemental combos and you literally feel like a walking orgy. If you're a good shot and don't mind the trigger style, you've got the potential to deal a lot of damage with this. On top of it all, it's got one of the sickest prime weapon models in game. So, while those Oregon derelict survivals can be a bit of a pain in the ass, this is definitely one of the primes that I think you should get your hands on. Thank you for watching another episode of The Quick Draw. As always, I hope you enjoyed your time here, and don't forget to do the thing that I asked you to do at the end of every one of these. Also, be sure to stay tuned for more insecurity breeding content here at A Gay Guy Plays. Aw, it's okay, Loki. You don't need to be primed to be Uber.